I, 29F, keep finding long hairs in my bathroom, which is strange because my husband, 32M, is bald, and I have a short pixie crop hairstyle. This started a few weeks ago. While cleaning the bathroom, I found a number of long hair strands over my bathroom wall by the shower. This struck me as very odd because not only does my husband not have hair, I also wear a very cropped, short hairstyle. So it's impossible for the strands I found to belong to either me or my husband. Confused, I washed them away, but couldn't stop thinking about it. I decided not to mention it, but kept looking out for them. There seems to be a pattern that there's hairs appearing when I'm either at work or out for a long period of time. I feel like I'm going crazy and feel like I shouldn't just immediately go to my husband cheating on me with a longer-haired woman. I asked my husband about it and he just shrugged, which makes me more paranoid, as surely this is something that's strange, so why is he so blasé about it? I'm starting to think he's playing it down to stop me from finding out the truth. It happened 2 days ago, and I asked my husband again. He dismissed it, but this time admitted it's strange, but told me the only explanation is that they must be my hairs. They are not, and after saying so, now he'll just ignore me if I bring it up. I don't want to assume my husband is cheating on me and accuse him of such over something so ridiculous, but I'm driving myself into the ground trying to figure out how the hairs have gotten there without my husband dismissing it as nothing. During lockdown, we haven't had any visitors that I know of, so we can rule out his sister. Update. I ultimately decided against getting a secret camera set up because, ironically enough, I didn't want to betray my partner's trust. Though part of me wanted to get one to squash any worries of someone living in my walls, as per some comments said. I did plan to leave work early though, which is something I've never done before. My boss allowed me to leave after a half day. Upon returning home, nothing seemed amiss. I was expecting another car on the driveway or parked outside on the street. There was no other car that I didn't recognize. Quietly letting myself in, I was immediately confused. In the hallway, there was a pair of shoes I didn't recognize, and not only that, they looked like men's shoes. Standing in the hallway trying to work out what to do, if I should sneak around or make my presence known. Before I could decide, my husband walked out of the kitchen with 2 cups of tea. By my husband's face, it was obvious. He was surprised to see me. Playing along with naivete, I asked my husband how he could have known I was coming home early to make tea. Expecting my husband to lie, he surprised me by sitting me down and explaining everything. At the beginning of lockdown, his friend, someone I'm not at all that close with because I've only met them once, was evicted, lost his job, and had been couch surfing. So, for some days over the past couple of weeks, this guy has been traveling to our house and, with the acceptance of my husband, using our bathroom to freshen up to attend interviews. He was also borrowing shirts and suits from my husband. As it turns out, my husband's friend has long hair and a beard. So it turns out my husband isn't cheating on me, but was hiding the fact that his long-haired friend was coming over to use our shower. After his shower, I ended up meeting Dave, and he turned out to be a very nice bloke just down on his luck. I wished him the best for his socially distanced interview, and he went on his way. I asked my husband why he didn't just tell me, as I wouldn't have a problem with it. Turns out he was worried about my reaction and me not liking his friend or approving of the situation. He also told me Dave was very embarrassed about the whole situation and didn't want people to know what he was having to do. I told my husband I was starting to believe he was cheating, and he was shocked, having not even considering those implications while attempting to cover for his friend. I told him this whole thing was ridiculous and even suggested his friend live with us until he's back on his feet. Funnily enough, my worst case scenario, which was mentioned in the replies, was either a homeless man or woman living in my walls and sneakily using the shower. And though this seems to be half the case, I'm glad it wasn't a stranger that was unwelcome and living inside of my walls. Thank you to everyone that commented and took an interest in this. So I don't believe I've read any stories of it happening on this channel, but I have personally read stories of people saying that there was someone living inside of their basement or walls or attic for long periods of time on Reddit or other websites. That's kind of crazy that people can get away with that. But thankfully it wasn't that, and thankfully it wasn't cheating, because we don't like cheaters on this channel. What we do approve of is supportive bros helping bros, British bros. All right, next story. Story number 2. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend because she is still friends with the guy she cheated with in her previous relationship? Me, 26, and my ex-girlfriend, 25, were together for about a year. Some weeks ago, we were hanging out with some of her friends, not the friend in question, and we were playing a little quiz game, and one of the questions that popped up involved cheating. I mentioned that I hate cheaters, and after that, I noticed one of the friends give my ex-girlfriend a look, and also noticed that my girlfriend got a bit uncomfortable. It was weird, and got me thinking. The next day, I asked my girlfriend about it. She said that she wasn't gonna lie and admitted that she cheated on her ex. This was a year before she met me. I felt upset about it because she's never mentioned it before, and I asked what happened. She mentioned that one time she got drunk and hooked up with her friend. Let's call him Byron. Byron is a former FWB of hers, and they still hang out from time to time. I knew that my ex-girlfriend and Byron had a history, and while I didn't like that they hung out, I just dealt with it. I was pretty upset because not only did I find out she was a cheater, but she still hung out with the guy. I told her I needed some time to think, and after 2 days, I decided to break up with her. I didn't want to tell her that she can't be friends with Byron, and I knew I couldn't deal with her still being friends with him, so I just removed myself. So, am I the a-hole?
Here are some relevant comments. One user said,
Do you list every screw-up you've ever done to your partners? OP replied, Not usually, but if you're keeping what made you screw up in the first place close to you, then yes. Maybe I could have dealt with it if she wasn't friends with Byron, but she was. Then, in a reply to a downvoted comment that says people cheat because they're missing something in their relationship, OP said, F off with that. If you're not getting what you need from a partner, then break up. I hope your current partner never fails to provide what you need. I bet the person you cheated with wouldn't mind, though specifically since you're still in touch. Update. Since so many people took interest last time, I figured I'd update you all. So, about a week after I posted my original post, my ex-girlfriend dropped by my place. She said that she wanted to get back together, and that it was silly of us to break up over this. I told her that I'm just not comfortable with her friendship with Byron. She said that her cheating with Byron was a mistake, but that was in the past and she's grown. I told her that it doesn't really look like it. She goes out drinking with Byron very often, and you two were screwing after you and your ex broke up. They were FWB before and after her ex. So, I told her I'm just not taking a chance to be her next sucker.
She then said, What if I cut off Byron? Can we get back together then?
I was tempted for a second, to be honest. Our relationship seemed great, but I remembered some of the comments I read in my last post, and I asked her, Have you been having sex with Byron since we broke up? And I had never seen such a poor poker face. She stumbled her words and said no. I gave her a look like, that's BS. She saw this and said,
I mean, we were broken up.
I just put my hands up and said nope. I then asked her to leave. She was really upset. The only thing this guy didn't do is ask her if she slept with Byron while they were together.
By the way, I've never liked the name Byron. What's up with that? Just say Brian. What a weird name. And I am so glad for OP that he just said, you know what? I'm cutting off the root immediately. Done. Deuces, sayonara. Then he asked the girlfriend and she's like, well, you see, we were on a break. No, you messed up, Susan. Sorry, girlfriend. Sorry, ex-girlfriend. Cheaters do not prosper. Not on this channel. Next story.
Story number 3. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my fiance for not bringing me lunch? I, 25F, and my fiance Mark, 26M, have been together for 2 years. Me and Mark met through a mutual friend, and we went to the same high school together, but didn't start dating till years after we graduated. He is currently in the military and is stationed in another state, but kept our relationship strong through the long distance and of course when he comes home for vacation, breaks, and holidays. We also have a dog named Willie that we got together, but of course stays with me and sees Mark when he's home. When he is home, he stays at my place and spends time at his family's while I'm at work. Since he flies home, he leaves his personal vehicle at base and sometimes uses my car. He also picks me up for lunch break and we eat together. He doesn't miss a lunch day. He got home 5 days ago and I returned back to work. Mark dropped me off so he could use my car for errands and to re-up on Willie's food since we just ran out during his morning feed. When he picked me up at the end of my shift, I asked Mark if he bought the big or small bag of Willie's food. He paused and mentioned he forgot to buy the food. Mind you, I work a 10-hour shift and fed Willie the minute I got up to get ready for work, which was 11 to 12 hours ago. I asked Mark what he has been doing while I was at work, and he just said he was out spending time with his brothers. I am a very understanding and patient person. I was mad that Willie had gone so long without eating, but gave him the benefit of the doubt since he hasn't seen his family in months, so I let it go. A couple of days later, Mark mentioned he was going Christmas shopping with his brothers and wouldn't be able to take me to lunch since he was going before their shifts. My brother-in-laws are 20 and 22 and haven't saved up for their own cars, so had to use mine. We had a surprise meeting that day, which extended my lunch to a later time that Mark would be free for. I called Mark and told him of my new lunch hour and asked if he could bring me a plate of food. Mark weirdly hesitated and said he had to go feed Willie first since it was time for his second feeding. I suggested to feed Willie after he dropped off some lunch for me since my break was only for 1 hour and wouldn't have enough time to eat if he went back home first. Mark heavily insisted on feeding Willie first because he didn't want to upset me the way he did when he forgot to feed him a couple of days ago. I felt off. I love Willie very much, but I told him Willie was not going to starve from 5 hours of not eating. Mark suggested I just wait till the end of my shift to go eat after work. I was dumbfounded that Mark was being heavily hesitant on bringing me food, especially since he's in my car and I haven't ate since last night because I'm not much of a breakfast person. I was starving. What could be more important than buying a plate of food for your starving partner? I got upset and asked Mark what's really going on because he's never missed a lunch date with me. Mark got loud and said I'm tripping and hung up on me. I called him back and all calls were rejected. He texted me saying he was going home and we could talk after work because he was really tired from shopping. For petty reasons, I had a bag of chips in my desk that I refused to eat so he could hear my stomach growl when he picked me up later. I see him pull up to the front of my office building and I calmly get into the car. The second we get home, I tell him it's over and ask to pack his things and leave. He calls me a crybaby and dramatic and will regret breaking up. Is he right? And am I just being extra for ending the relationship?
Here are some relevant comments. User 1 said,
So, he's probably screwing around for one, which I'm sorry to hear,
but he had told you the day/evening before that he couldn't make the lunch date. So why didn't you bring food with you from home?
And this wasn't an issue for you until your break got changed. If it hadn't, what would you have eaten anyway if you didn't bring anything? WTF, lady?
OP replied with,
I had money to DoorDash. I just needed to know what was so important to not bring a plate of food for your partner. And the mall does not take a whole lot. He was already done with the mall to begin with, which is why I asked.
User 2 said,
not being dramatic. He's being super shady. I don't believe he was really hanging out with his brothers those 2 days. He had other plans.
OP said,
I asked after he was done hanging with his brothers at the mall. I would not have asked him to bail on his brothers in the middle of his plans. I also got super upset because he hung up right in the middle of our call and didn't answer any further phone calls or texts. He also never went to go feed Willie. We don't share locations, so I don't know where he was all this time, to be honest. Update. To answer some repeating questions, all gifts were bought and given to my mother-in-law since she loves to rap and Mark is super bad at keeping gifts a secret. Even if extra gifts were being bought as a surprise, no gift would be okay to leave me with anxiety and overthinking for the remaining 6 hours of my shift. I also did not mention that I also had a feeling that he was probably out cheating, since I wanted the actual thought and POV of everyone that read through this. I wanted to see if everyone's gut feeling/intuition thought the same without my influence. I also mentioned the part of me being petty to not paint myself as the saint some people say I'm assuming to be, and to show my raw emotion and irrational thinking coming from a place of hurt and anger. Now onto the actual update. Mark packed his stuff and left. The next morning, I noticed that he had left an old college jacket that belonged to his stepdad and it meant a lot to him, and it had a deep meaning behind it. I could have been petty and threw it away, but decided to text Mark and maybe even talk it out after a night of being away and letting things calm down. I texted Mark, hey, you left some clothes behind, and his response was, wow, already crawling back. Throw it away, I don't want that crap. And he said that without even knowing if it was the jacket. So I left him on red and decided to text his mother if I could stop by and drop off the said jacket. She said of course and told me to come by and also pick up the gifts I'm assuming I wanted back. I came over and was immediately greeted by his mother and stepdad, which hugged me and asked if I was okay and needed to talk. I immediately broke down. I explained the situation and basically told the same story as I told on here. His mother was pissed and decided to call Mark and ask for his side of the story, but did not mention I was there to listen in on the call. Mark answered by saying that I called him at the time he was with Nick and Devin, his brothers, and told me that he couldn't leave them at the mall since he was the only one with the transportation, and immediately blew up on him for picking his brothers over me. I yelled, "That's not true," out of frustration, and showed my mother-in-law the call history, which checked out the time that both brothers were already clocked in for their shifts, which the mother-in-law and father-in-law confirmed to be their shifts. One brother-in-law also shared a picture of him and some co-workers around the same time I asked him to bring me lunch. Mark hung up the call. In-laws texted Mark and sided with me. I thanked them for the memories and love and left my engagement ring with them. Mark has been calling me repeatedly and has sent text messages begging to talk. After an hour, I finally answered and told him to tell me the truth or this would be the final time we have spoke. Mark admitted to seeing another woman, an ex to be exact. I hung up and haven't answered since. I know it says that this all happened today, but actually took place 2 days ago. I had typed it out and left it as a draft since I cried myself to sleep and have been trying to keep it together. Update on Willie. Willie stays at a doggy daycare while I'm at work, but we both decided to leave Willie at home while he was in town to save money from it. So, I'm gonna be honest with all of you, I kinda jumped the gun when she first said in the first third of the story that I'm done. I was like, he didn't bring you lunch and you wanted to break up? What? But then the story goes on and I'm like, well, seems like she called it. I also have to give OP kudos for not wanting to paint herself as a saint, as she mentioned. She straight up said, like, yeah, I got a little petty. And I think it's good that she mentioned that, because when crazy things are thrown at you, sometimes you react in a crazy way. But when emotions get involved, and when you're in a whirlwind of emotions, you go with the flow. And the flow is hectic. Not every time, but you know what I mean. You're smart. Next story. Story number 4. My husband and my son both lied to me. I am 34F. My husband is 36M. We have been married for 12 years. A few weeks ago, my husband said that he has seen another woman handle situations that he didn't think I would be able to handle. I tried to talk to him about why it bothered me, and he had just told me it was a passing comment and I shouldn't take it so seriously. That he had meant to simply compliment her by saying she was handling so much on her own and he was impressed by it. I told him it was completely unnecessary and hurtful to compare her to me to compliment her. He told me I was being unreasonable and jealous and that he didn't mean anything by it. After that, he didn't say anything else about it, so I dropped it. Then, yesterday, when I came home from work, I saw a pair of women's Fendi sunglasses on our kitchen island, kind of hidden by our fruit bowl. I picked them up and asked my husband whose they were. He looked confused and was like, "Aren't they yours?" And I said no. Our older son, 11, is sitting at the kitchen table and goes, "Oh, those are my friend Alden's. I took them home on accident." I was immediately suspicious. These are very expensive sunglasses. I know Allison's mother, and she doesn't seem like the type to let her child bring something worth that much money into school. My son kept insisting that they were hers, and he had just taken them home accidentally on the bus, and he'd return them to her tomorrow. But I said no, and that I would return them to her mother in person so I could make sure they got to them safely. When I spoke to Allison's mother, she confirmed that they weren't Allison's, and that neither she nor her daughter owned sunglasses like that. When I told my son and husband this, they both feigned ignorance. My son went from saying that he could have sworn they were Allison's to, well, maybe not maybe, I don't know whose they were. And then my husband said that he does remember taking the sunglasses out of our son's backpack when he was getting out his lunch stuff. My younger son, 9, just came home and recognized the sunglasses. They are Noelle's, the woman my husband helps out sometimes. The one he told me to not be upset over when comparing me to her. I am going to confront him when he gets home. I don't know what to say to him. I feel as though I'm going to immediately burst into tears. Can someone please give me advice on what to say? And also just advice in general, please? I never thought I would be in this situation. Update. I, 34F, found a pair of sunglasses on my kitchen table. My son, 11, immediately claimed that they were his friends, even though it was pretty obvious they were an adult woman's. Even after the story began to fall apart, he and his father continued to lie. My youngest son, 9, ended up identifying the sunglasses. When he got home, my husband admitted that they were Noelle's. She has been over there while I was at work. My husband has not realized they were hers. He thought they were mine, which is why he didn't move them. My older son realized whose they were immediately, which is why he lied about them. He knew I was about to find it all out and was trying to cover. My younger son recognized them because apparently they have gone with Noelle numerous places on my husband's days off while I was at work. I don't know what he told my older son, but he told my youngest not to tell me about Noelle and her son hanging out with them because I would feel bad about being left out because I was at work. I returned the glasses to Noelle, who seemed horrified. She was under the assumption I knew about their hangouts. I asked her why did she think I would be okay with this. She looked really confused and told me why I would care if we were separated anyway. I told her we absolutely were not separated. We were very much still together. Apparently, my husband told her we had not been together except for cohabiting and co-parenting for months now. I confronted my husband with this information and he didn't deny it. He apologized, but said he had developed feelings for Noelle but didn't want to risk our marriage until he knew if they were true feelings or just attraction. He left the house. Noelle wants nothing to do with him now because she knows the truth. He lied to her as well, and she's furious. I am speaking to a lawyer today. I'm not going to speak to him again except through lawyers, since I don't have anything else to say to him. We read another story a few weeks ago where a husband said to his wife, "Babe, why can't you be like that?" And then you know how the story ended? Divorce. You know what OP's husband did in this story? That was a Freudian slip, yo. If you want your partner to do something new or different for you, you can sit down and talk with them, but to go with that approach? I don't know. So, do you have any wisdom, personal experiences that you would like to share? Maybe you want to talk about what you had for breakfast today. Leave a comment. Press some buttons. Okay, bye-bye.